Hello students, welcome to Vishnu IAS Academy. From today, we are starting our flagship program Sarvashresth, which is UPSC Mains 2024 Rapid Revision Program and Value Enhancement Program. Okay, and today we will be starting from GS3 Agriculture part, and we will be covering all the topics in this by end of this month. Okay, first things first, in economy, you will be getting 6 questions from 6 10 markers and 6 15 markers, and among this, 3 10 markers and 3 15 markers will be relatively which are related to agriculture. So in this scenario, if we are having agriculture part in our fingertips, it will be a lot of advantage to us. So that's why we are starting our rapid revision with agriculture part. And coming to agriculture part, there should be some sort of data in our hands so that we can use anywhere. These are usable in any type of answer, and for every specific topic I will be providing related value addition, and these are some sort of other topics. Okay, and please remember these things. First thing about this agriculture, share of agriculture in GDP. As per Economic Survey 23, share of agriculture is 18.3%. See, you can for any sort of issues or some sort of status of agriculture answer, you can directly quote this data either in your intro or some sort of body context. Okay. So what is the share of agriculture in India? It is 18.3%. But what is the share of agriculture in employment in India? Share of agricultural employment is 45.4%. And this is based on Periodic Labour Force Survey 2021-22. And if possible, please remember the committee or the report which says about this data. Because since these papers will be evaluated by some sort of economic professors, they will be feeling excited when we will be quoting this sort of data, right? Next, agriculture growth rate. Even in our COVID times, agriculture had exhibited a growth rate of around 3.5% in 2021-22. Okay. Next thing, if the question is related to some sort of problems in agriculture and in those sort of things, we can quote about this. Agricultural farm size. See, in 1991, the average farm size is 1.41 hectares. But in 2021-22, the average farm size is just 1.14 hectares. By this, what does this meant? This meant that land fragmentation had increased a lot in India. And 86.2% of farmers in India are small and marginal farmers. Means who are having land of less than 2 hectares. And all these 86.2% of farmers in India hold just 47.3% of land area. By this you can understand how much percentage of small and marginal farmers are there and what is their scenario. Okay. Next, and regarding any sort of agri-climatic zones answers or some sort of importance of Indian agriculture, you can quote this data which says that India's comparative advantage, India is having second highest arable land in India. In the world. India is having second highest arable land in world. Means we are having lot of land which is fertile and which will be useful for growing crops. Of course, this is an advantage for us. Next, and one more thing about post-harvest losses. As per Ashok Dalwai committee, post-harvest loss costs annually around 92,000 crores for us. So these are some sort of data which you can use in any sort of agriculture answers. Now, specifically we will be going into the inner topics of agriculture. First topics, as I had promised earlier, we will be covering each and every syllabus keyword and PYQ theme which was mentioned in the syllabus and also asked in earlier UPSC papers. And one among the previous year theme is, and also it is a direct syllabus keyword which says land reforms in India. Land reforms in India. See, about land reforms in India, up to now from 2013, 5 questions have been asked. See, about the objectives and measures of land reforms, about the successes of land reforms, and what are the socio-economic conditions of small and marginal farmers with the implementation of these land reforms, what are the problems of these land reforms. In this way, some questions have been asked with respect to land reforms. So now we will be trying to cover this thing in a comprehensive manner. First thing about land reforms. Basically, what does land reform mean? Means there is some sort of problem with respect to land distribution. So government is trying to correct that problem. That is land reforms. Now, what would be a very good introduction with respect to this land reforms? land reforms can be defined as institutional reforms aimed to address the concentration of wealth by reallocating land to the landless. See, in this we are mentioning it as an institutional reforms because it is not being done by any sort of private sector. It is being done by the government itself. And in this, what is happening? There is transfer of excess land to surplus land to the people who are not having land. So, in this definition, we are covering whole essence of land reforms. So, once again, I am telling this about introduction. Land reforms can be defined as institutional reforms aimed to address the concentration of wealth by reallocation of land to the landless. Right? Now, what is the purpose of these land reforms? Nothing but eradication of poverty and hunger. We all know that land is a source of income. Land is a source of, and most of our India lives in rural areas. And if they are not having land, it will be very problematic. And also, if there is a lot of land fragmentation and all, it will be difficult also for growing high productivity and all. So, the major purpose of this land reform is eradication of poverty and hunger. Eradication of poverty and hunger. And philosophy. And what is the philosophy behind this land reforms? The basic philosophy is that in our constitution, in Article 39 B and C of our Directive Principles of State Policy, it is mentioned that of the purpose, what is the philosophy of this land reforms? Why the idea of land reforms have been mooted? Land reforms, it is a sort of socialist idea. You know, so in socialist idea, there will be equality. Earlier, the thing is that when there is a lot of capitalism, there will be a lot of inequalities and there will be problems with respect to inequality. Now, with this socialist idea, we are planning to give them redistributive justice, and it is already mentioned in our constitution in DPSP in the form of Article 39 B and C. Okay. Next, objectives of land reforms. What are the major objectives of this land reforms? First thing is restructuring agrarian relations to achieve an egalitarian structure, because there is lot of inequality, because lot of land is in the hands of very less people. So, if redistribution happens, there will be possibility of creating an egalitarian structure. Next, elimination of exploitation in land relations. You know that in rural areas, the power or some sort of respect is based on land relations. For example, if a person is having lot of land, he will be relatively having higher respect. So, in this scenario, we can eliminate some sort of exploitation with respect to land relations. Next, actualization of land to the tiller. We all know that our father of the nation, Gandhi, had an idea of land to the tiller. With these land reforms, this ideal of Mahatma Gandhi can be achieved. Next, with this land reforms, there is possibility of increasing the agricultural production and productivity, because there will be equal distribution of land. So, there is easier way to formation of cooperatives and all. Okay. Next, in answer, it will be very better if we can quote some sort of constitutional articles and all. And regarding this, as I earlier mentioned also, there is an article called 39B, which is mentioned in the constitution, which says to address the concentration of wealth. It is the duty of the government of India and different states to address the concentration of wealth. Means there is need for redistribution. Next, also, right to property has been repealed under 44th Amendment Act, so that land reforms can be implemented easily. Next, now coming to the different types of land reforms. First major land reform is Zamindari abolition or abolition of intermediaries. Along with the types, we will be discussing the successes and failures of each and every type of land reforms. Okay, and the first thing here is Zamindari abolition, and this is the most successful of the all land reforms implemented in India. Why? Because most Zamindars got heavy compensation to invest in capital industries like rice mill. This also changed the rural power structure. And the final, the major success here is that large feudal estates have gone and 58 lakh hectares have been given to 20 million tenants. So, in this way, distribution of land had happened. But there are many problems with respect to this implementation of this Zamindari abolition also. What are those shortcomings? Since there are absence of land records, many illegal transactions had happened. Next, Zamindaris converted to tillers and retained land under personal cultivation. Zamindaris themselves told that they are their own, they are the original tenants because there are no land records earlier, so they can fake it. And also there is no proper definition with respect to this clause, so they had tied up with the local bureaucracy, and they didn't allow the transfer of land. Next, high binami transactions had happened, and the major shortcoming of this is that all these rich landlords, they went to the courts for litigation with respect to this, with respect to right to property and all. So this also delayed the implementation. And meanwhile, they had tried to divide the land between some their family members, and they had kept land with themselves only. Next, collusion between landlords and bureaucracy, which I had mentioned earlier also. Next thing, second land reform is tenancy reform. This is also a relatively successful thing. Why? Because the objective of this tenancy reform is that security of tenure to tenant, because there are a lot of tenants who are doing the agricultural part, but the owner is different. But owners are being very sort of aggressive, or they are exploited to do the tenants. With this land reform, this problem of tenancy had gone. And what are the objectives of this? Security of tenure to the tenant. Landlords cannot evict them on their interest. There are some rules for eviction. Next, regulation of rents. Landlords cannot keep rents in whatever amount they want. Those are also regulated. Next, ownership rights have also been given to the tenants if they are able to pay some amount which is fixated by the government. And this experiment of tenancy reform is most successful in Kerala and West Bengal under the name of Operation Barga. Okay. Now, with respect to shortcomings of this tenancy reforms, since it is related to tenancy, sharecroppers were not part of it, so they didn't get benefit. Next, we all know that there are no sort of agreements with respect to the tenants and landlords. So, since there are oral agreements only, since there are oral agreements and underground tenancy, this couldn't be successful in many other areas. Next, land transfer to relatives to enter into the category of small landowners and then evicted the tenant. Got it? Yeah. Next thing is land ceiling. This is the third land reform, and this is the most crucial, because whenever a ceiling limit has kept, then only the excess land can be taken away from the original landowner and can be distributed to the others. Now, is it successful? It is relatively successful. The major fault of this is that even though government had taken the excess land, but they didn't even distribute it up until now. This is the major fault under this land ceiling. And what are the objectives of this land ceiling? The objective is to reduce the existing disparities in the pattern of land ownership, because there are because large amount of land is there with the landowners. Up to 1972, the landowner was treated as the unit of application. Post 1972, the family was treated as the basis of landholding. Because of this difference in the definition between the landowner or the family definition, this difficulty had arisen. And other loopholes legal loopholes are there. Delay in bringing the land ceiling legislations, and whichever the landlords had provided for as part of their excess of ceiling, they had provided only poor quality infertile lands. Next, the fourth land reform is distribution of surplus land to the tillers. In the land ceiling, excess land will be taken by the government, and in the fourth land reform, distribution of surplus land will be happening to the other person. Now, what happened? Very limited redistribution had happened. Government couldn't redistribute it until even now. Next, the fifth thing is consolidation of land holding and establishment of cooperatives. Because there will be small marginal farmers, if a cooperative farming sort of model is created, it will be useful. Now, what are the impacts of these land reforms? Basically, it had altered the ownership pattern. We can consider it as some sort of success. Next, if socio-economic impacts are, some landless had got land, large landowners were decreased, and also it had limited the growth of inequality. If at least these sort of land reforms couldn't have happened, this inequality would have been in another position until now. Next, the worst ever fallout of this is rise of Naxalite movement. Because due to a lack of proper implementation of land reforms, Naxalite movement had increased in many sort of this red corridor. Next, about the political fallout. Up to now we had seen the socio-economic fallout. Now we are discussing about political fallout. The major thing is that experts say that the breakdown of Congress system post 1967 is due to the implementation of these land reforms, because the power structure has changed in the village and rural areas. So when other sections of the society had got power, they had tried to move to some sort of political influence. That's why. Next, the rise of regional parties and all were also indirectly related to the implementation of these land reforms. Now, what is the way forward? Since we had seen all this, in what we can do in the further scenario, in Indian scenario. First thing is, there is no discourse of land reforms in present scenario. It appears outdated. Now, it is the need of professionals or intellectuals to bring the discourse of land reforms in the normal intelligentsia, to the normal middle class people also. Next, wherever left-wing extremism is in rise, government need to implement the land reforms so that it can be subsided. And one more thing is, digitalization of land records is the major thing. If it is implemented, lot of problems and lot of litigations can be reduced. And one more thing is, we have to prevent agricultural land being transferred to non-agricultural uses. Okay, so these are some sort of suggestions for the improvement in the implementation of land reforms. Okay, the next topic in our agriculture is Green Revolution, and it is related to a syllabus topic called technology missions. There can be a direct question related to Green Revolution. What are the various objectives of it? What are the various methods used in Green Revolution? What are the outcomes of the Green Revolution, and what is the way forward? In this way, some sort of question can be asked regarding this Green Revolution topic. Now, what is a better introduction for this Green Revolution? It could be, Green Revolution refers to the phase of technological reforms in Indian agriculture based on the capitalist mode of production. Green Revolution refers to the phase of technological reforms in Indian agriculture based on capitalist mode of production. Why it is a technological reforms? Because we are using high yielding varieties, mechanization, agriculture mechanization and all to increase the productivity. So we can consider Green Revolution as technological reform. These are the keywords which are required in our answers. Next, we can also consider Green Revolution as the second grand strategy of the Indian state to address poverty and hunger. What is the first grand strategy? It is land reforms. Now, after the land reforms have been implemented, to increase the agriculture productivity, there is need of something, that is Green Revolution. So we can consider it as second grand strategy. Next, now why this Green Revolution is important? We all know that we used to import rice, wheat and all from USA and other countries before the implementation of this Green Revolution. We are not self-sufficient in food grain production. With the success of this Green Revolution, we became self-sufficient in food grain production. So the major purpose of this Green Revolution to make India self-sufficient in production of food grains and address the problem of ship to mouth. Please remember this keyword, ship to mouth. Why this phrase has been used? Because earlier, before the implementation of the Green Revolution, we are importing food grains through ship and we are eating this. We are eating those food grains. We are importing this food grains from USA. That's why. Now, the philosophy behind this Green Revolution is that it is based on capitalism and production-centered approach, because there is high focus on production and productivity. Next, it is relatively capital intensive because some sort of capital infrastructure investment is needed. Next, first time we are using the fertilizers, high yielding variety seeds, pesticides, irrigation facilities are needed. So all these will be improving the productivity of the land. Next, agriculture, agri-credit, agri-mechanization, and with the implementation of Green Revolution, since there is lot of production with rice, wheat and all, there is need for MSP and all. So government had went with MSP, research and development with respect to further process and all. So all these will be coming into our Green Revolution. Now Green Revolution in a subsided form started in 1961 with the name of Intensive Agriculture Development Program in just 14 selected districts. Later on it was extended to 114 districts in the name of Intensive Agricultural Area Program in 1965. Okay. So the major what are the major principles used in this Green Revolution are, it is capital intensive, there will be intensive use of land, some sort of fertilizers, HYV seeds, pesticides, irrigation facilities, all will be provided for the success of this Green Revolution. Now, what are the outcomes of this Green Revolution? First positive outcome is, we became self-sufficient in food production. This ended the India's image of begging bowl, right? Next, there is growth in agriculture sector. And successive growth of around 3 to 5% from independence we had seen with respect to agriculture sector because of success of Green Revolution. And also with this growth in agriculture sector, what happened? It had stimulated supply chain, market oriented agricultural exports happened. With the agriculture exports, forex also increased, and this forex helped us to pay back the loans. And finally, the major benefit is that it created lot of farm and non-farm employment. because there will be a lot of backward and forward linkages with respect to this agriculture sector. For the success of agriculture, we are in the green revolution, we are using fertilizers and all. These are backward linkages and forward linkages. For the transportation of the agriculture produce, this logistical sector will be developed and all. And later on, business sector will be developed and manufacturing sector will be developed in the processing. So in this way, green revolution had helped a lot to Indian economy. Next, negatives. If all those are positive outcomes, what are the negatives with respect to green revolution? First thing is, it had accentuated the regional inequality. Why? Because green revolution have been implemented in very limited areas in the northwest belt and this southern coastal areas. Northwest belt and the southern coastal areas. This created lot of regional inequalities. Next, it had increased the gap between rich and poor, because for the buying of this high yielding variety seeds, pesticides and all, there is a lot of investment is needed. Poor farmers cannot invest that much. Next, it had increased the rural indebtedness, because rural indebtedness had increased because of this green revolution, because to buy these high yielding varieties and all, farmers used to borrow and they are in a loop of debt. That's why. And some experts say that actually small and marginal farmers had faced a lot of loss with respect to this green revolution. Only rich farmers had become successful. And the major important fallout or the negative of this green revolution is that lot of environmental damage had happened because the excessive usage of these crops, these water guzzling crops like rice and wheat, for infertility had created in the agriculture sector, right? And also lot of desertification happened in northwest belt. And our famous environmentalist Vandana Shiva says that nothing green is there in green revolution. There is loss of fertility, salinity had increased, groundwater crisis had created due to green revolution. And one other fallout is that unemployment had also happened because of farm mechanization. The labor usage has relatively decreased. In this way, unemployment has also increased. And with respect to these are some sort of socio-economic fallouts. Now, if you are going to political fallouts, some experts say that the rise of regional parties or breakdown of Congress system, regionalization in Indian politics, and also ruralization in Indian parliament, all these had happened due to the success of green revolution. Means as a fallout, we can consider it as some sort of success are there, some sort of negatives are also there in this. So now, what is the way forward? The way forward is that we need green revolution 2.0, which MS Swaminathan consider it as evergreen revolution. What we need is a rainbow and evergreen revolution based on inclusivity and sustainability. Because even though there are some lot of benefits with the implementation of our green revolution 1.0, lot of environmental damage had happened. Poor and marginal farmers didn't benefit a lot. Now MS Swaminathan is suggesting for green revolution 2.0, which he calls it as rainbow and evergreen revolution. The major focus here will be inclusiveness, because poor and marginal farmers will also be getting benefit, and also sustainable, because environmental shouldn't be damaged with the implementation of any sort of reform. Okay, next, why there is need of this second green revolution? Because there is high rise of population, growing population. As per UN report, India is the most populous country now. Around 141 crore population is there in India. Next, dependency on agriculture. Around 65% of our country's population is living in rural areas, and around 47% population is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture. So, success and sustainability of agriculture is quintessential. Next, ecological cost. The Green Revolution 1.0 had created a lot of environmental problems. To counter that and at least to improve some sort of things, Green Revolution 2.0 is needed. With the implementation of earlier Green Revolution, there is a lot of depletion and pollution of groundwater also. And presently, the growth in agriculture is relatively became stagnant. So, to bring some sort of force in agricultural growth, this second Green Revolution is essential. And also to counter the problem of global warming, we need to do some sort of climate-friendly agriculture. That's why second Green Revolution is essential. Yeah. And one more concept in this is that bringing Green Revolution in Eastern India. What is this? We all know that the lot of regional inequality have been created in our Green Revolution 1.0. Eastern India is completely neglected, Northeast belt and all. Since Northeast is having lot of water resources, if Green Revolution is introduced in that Northeast belt, there will be a lot of scope for agriculture development and high growth. So that's why this bringing Green Revolution in Eastern India is essential now. Okay, thank you. We will continue our next part in the other videos.